Hi, I'm Donna Joy Usher. I'm one half of Social Media Bomb, and today I want to talk to you about the number one mistake that we see being made in branding of businesses. Now, when you think about branding, what do you think? I'm going to place money on instantly your mind jumps to things like logos and color schemes and names. And I have to tell you that for years, that's what I thought was the most important thing about branding. And you have no idea how many websites I had, how many logos I had, and how many times I moved from business to business because I thought that my business just wasn't working because I didn't have the branding right. But the reality was that I was missing something far more important to do with branding than just the logo and the business name. Now, I see those things as being like the pretty wrapping paper that goes around the box that the present is in. Okay, they are can be a very integral part of branding. I mean, if you look at McDonald's, the golden arches, like everybody just sees that golden M and they know exactly what that is. So they can definitely be a very important part of branding, but you know, just the golden arches by itself with nothing else, you'd be wondering why there was a golden M up there. So what's in the box is far more important. Now, what that thing is messaging. So what I mean by messaging, so I mean your message to your market. So it involves quite a few aspects that I'm going to talk about. So the first thing about messaging is your message to the market of who you can help and how you can help them. So let's think about somebody who might be in the weight loss industry, and they, rather than just talking about weight loss in general, which is quite broad, and who they may not be getting people coming to them, if they started talking about women between 35 and 40 who had finished having children but hadn't lost that baby fat yet, hadn't managed to get that last bit of weight off, and how they helped those women lose those last few pounds, then all of a sudden their message to market is super sharp. And we call this sharpening the pencil. Okay, so you know when you got a blunt pencil and you try and write and you can't read the writing? Well, sharpening the pencil so that you can write clearly so people can read and see exactly who you are and what you're about. So your message to your market should be very clear about who you help and how you help them. Now, the next part of messaging is about you, who you are. So not just about how you're helping these people, but what do you stand for? What do you stand against? What are your morals and what are your ethics? So Russell Brunson teaches on a character called the attractive character. And I'm not going to go right into that, but you can read about it in his book here, .com Secrets, okay? Excellent book if you're interested in online marketing. But one of the things about the attractive character is that they're polarizing, which means that people either they love them or they hate them. But what nobody does with the attractive character is forget them. Now, don't freak out about the thought of people hating you. I mean, I know also when I first got into marketing, I wanted everybody to like me because I'm so lovable and I'm so likable. And hey, I am so lovable and likable. But the truth of the matter is that no matter how lovable and likable I am, there's always going to be some people out there who choose not to like me. And that's for their own reasons. I can't even begin to understand why. But the same with you. You must know that. You must know that there's people out there that don't like you no matter what you do, or no matter how hard you try. And that's what's the shit that's going on in their head. And it's normally got nothing to do with you, okay? So don't try to please everybody. Just try to please your target market and try to be memorable. Now, don't do this in a forced way, obviously, but don't be scared to stand for stuff and to stand by what you say, okay? So that's the attractive character. They have morals, they have ethics, and they have views, and they're not scared to do their points of view. So for instance, you might come out as that weight loss coach for those women between 35 and 40 to lose the last few pounds, and you might say, it's got nothing to do with exercise. It's got everything to do with food and diet and what you're putting in your mouth. And then you might even go further and to say, and more than that, it's what's going on in your head. So what's going on in your head that's causing you to put things in your mouth. And then you might have people coming out of the exercise field who are like, no, you can't lose weight without exercising. And then they hate you because of what you're saying. But you know what? A lot of women out there between 35 and 40 who don't have time to go to the gym because they've got kids. And for the thought of them to be able to lose that last few pounds, to be able to get that weight off and to feel good about themselves, and the only thing they have to concentrate on is what's going on in their head and what's going in their mouth, they're going to love you. Okay, so you can see how this messaging is working. Now, the things that your message should be, it should be consistent, it should be clear, it should be relevant, it should be impactful, okay? A confused mind always says no. So if you're confusing in your messaging, then people aren't going to want to be a part of what you've got. So for instance, just say you went down the street. I actually heard this example. in a podcast a few weeks ago, and I'm going to use the same example because it was really good. So just say there's a new bakery that's opened up down the road from you, and you go down and you look around, and there's kind of like it says bakery on the outside, but there's nothing, no other messaging, and you go inside and you look around and you're like, oh, and the baker's standing there, and he's standing at the front counter and he's scratching his head, he's looking at the ground, and he's like, yep, just don't know whether or not I should be making gluten-free bread or not. And you're like, okay, that's good. And you look around and there's nothing on the shelves, right? And then he goes, oh, and should I be making vegetarian quiches or just ham and cheese? And you're like, yeah, can't help you there, buddy. And he looks up the air and he says, maybe I should be a vegan baker. There's not many of them around. And at this point you back to the door and you exit quietly, and he doesn't even know you're gone. So that's the example of a confused message. Now, if you walked into the same bakery and everywhere it said everything in this bakery is gluten-free and vegan, then you know exactly what that bakery is about and who it's there for. And maybe it's not your thing. Maybe you can eat gluten. Maybe you don't mind eating animals. Maybe that's not your thing, but at least now you know. Okay, so that's an example of why messaging is so important. Now, there is another very important element of messaging that I'm not going to get into in this video. I'm going to talk about in my next video, and that is about your story, okay? So another thing of the attractive character is that the attractive character uses parables to teach, okay? So they use stories to teach. And one of the most important stories of all is your story. So if you're that woman who's teaching, or you're that person who's teaching 35 to 40-year-old woman to lose those last few pounds, and you yourself were once a 35 to 40-year-old woman who couldn't lose those last few pounds, and it's the secret of what you're going to teach them that allowed you to do that, then there's your story. Your story that you went through is what you tell, and you don't always tell the whole story. Sometimes you take parts of the story out and you weave them into your marketing and things like that, but that allows the people that you want to help to one, grow and attach like a rapport with you, and basically to see that you understand what they're going through, you understand how hard it is, but you made it work. So maybe you're the one that's going to help them, solve that mystery as well. Okay, so that's why your story is so important. But storytelling is a really big subject. I mean, some of you probably know that I'm also a fiction author. So storytelling is one of I spent like a solid year reading books on storytelling. So it is one of my favorite things to talk about. So I'm going to talk about it in the next video. We're going to go through the 3 important elements of storytelling. I'm going to give you some examples of how to use them. I'm going to use Star Wars as an example. And then I'm going to give you my story as an example, so you can see how, even though my story isn't as epic as Star Wars, I can break it down to the same format and I can have the same impact. Okay, so I hope you got something out of this video with branding, and I'll see you in the next the next video for storytelling.